Before we begin, this story involves murder, including the deaths of children. If that's something you need to step away from, we understand. Take care of yourself first. Construction worker stands on the second floor of a new building on West 63rd Street in Chicago. It's 1891. He's been on the job for 3 weeks, framing walls, hanging doors. And something doesn't make sense. The door he just installed opens onto a brick wall. Not a room, not a hallway. A wall. He asks the foreman. The foreman shrugs, says the owner changes the plans every week, says don't worry about it. The worker finishes his shift. By Friday, he's fired, replaced by a new crew who'll never see what he built. You're listening to The Unlit Room. Every story in here actually happened. That's the part that should scare you. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Today, a man designed a building to trap people inside it and opened it as a hotel during the biggest event in American history. Ian Gill Wood, Chicago, 1886. A young doctor calling himself H. Holmes arrives in the neighborhood and takes a job at a pharmacy on the corner of 63rd and Wallace. His real name is Herman Mudgett, born in New Hampshire, medical degree from the University of Michigan. He's charming, he's clean-cut. Within 2 years, he owns the pharmacy. Within 4, he's buying the empty lot across the street and filing permits for a 3-story mixed-use building. Holmes designed the building himself. That detail matters because of what the floor plans contained. The ground floor was ordinary enough: shops, a drugstore, the kind of storefronts you'd expect on a busy commercial block near the new train station. But the upper floors were different. Holmes drew them up personally, and he made sure no single contractor ever saw the complete layout. He hired crews, worked them for a few weeks, then fired them, claiming poor workmanship. Then he'd bring in a new crew to continue. Bricklayers who'd never met the carpenters, plumbers who'd never seen the second floor. By the time the building was finished in 1892, no one alive understood the full blueprint except Holmes. What investigators would later find: rooms with gas pipes that could be controlled from Holmes's private office on the 3rd floor. A vault, airtight, soundproofed, fitted with a lock only on the outside. Hallways that led to dead ends. Doors that opened onto walls. A chute running from the upper floors to the basement, wide enough to slide a body through. And in the basement, a kiln large enough to fit a person, and vats of acid. In 1893, Chicago hosted the World's Columbian Exposition. The White City, they called it. 27 million people visited over 6 months. It was the event that introduced America to the Ferris wheel, to Cracker Jack, to alternating current. It was a celebration of progress. Holmes's building sat across the street from the train station that fed it. Micro Cliffhanger 1. He opened the upper floors as a hotel, rooms available for fair visitors passing through Chicago. But the hotel wasn't where his worst crimes happened. Holmes was, above all, a con man. He ran insurance scams, forged deeds, swindled creditors. He married 3 women simultaneously in 3 different states. He lied the way most people breathe, constantly, automatically, without apparent effort. In 1894, he killed his business partner, Benjamin Pitt Ezell, in a Philadelphia boarding house. He staged it to look like a laboratory accident, a chemical explosion that disfigured the body beyond easy recognition. Then he filed for the $10,000 life insurance payout. He told Pitt Ezell's wife that her husband was alive and in hiding. He offered to take 3 of the Pitt Ezell children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, to reunite them with their father. She agreed. Holmes traveled with those children across the Midwest and into Canada, city to city, boarding house to boarding house. He never brought them to their father. The tip that unraveled everything came from inside a prison cell. A train robber named Marion Hedgepeth had shared a cell with Holmes months earlier. Holmes had asked for a recommendation, a crooked lawyer to help with the insurance scheme. Hedgepeth gave him a name. Holmes promised $500. He never paid. So Hedgepeth wrote a letter to the insurance company. Spite, not justice, broke the case open. Micro Cliffhanger 2. Investigators followed the trail Holmes had left across 5 states and 2 countries. What they found in Toronto and Indianapolis would guarantee he'd hang. In Toronto, police found the bodies of Alice and Nellie Pitt-Ezell buried in the cellar of a rented house. In Indianapolis, they found the remains of 8-year-old Howard in a wood stove in a rented cottage. Holmes was arrested in Boston in November 1894. He was charged with Benjamin Pitt-Ezell's murder and the murders of the 3 children. At trial, the evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted and sentenced to death. In his cell at Moyamensing Singh Prison in Philadelphia, Holmes wrote a confession. He claimed 27 murders. He described victims in detail, names, methods, locations. It was published in newspapers across the country. America had never seen anything quite like it. A murderer performing his own guilt for a mass audience. But when investigators checked, several of his supposed victims turned out to be alive. The confession was another con. Even when admitting to murder, Holmes couldn't stop lying. He shifted between claiming innocence, blaming Satan, and providing specifics, sometimes within the same paragraph. On May 7, 1896, he was led to the gallows. He asked for more time. The executioner didn't wait. The drop didn't break his neck. He hung for 15 minutes before he was pronounced dead. He was 34 years old. Here's the part that changes the story. For over a century, the building on 63rd Street has been called the Murder Castle, a custom-built slaughterhouse with gas chambers, trapdoors, and a crematorium in the basement. That's the version Erik Larson's bestseller popularized. It's the version most people know. __break_D 23 BD 650-7 __. But modern historians, particularly Adam Selzer, who spent years cross-referencing the building permits, the floor plans, and the original press coverage, argue that most of the Murder Castle legend was invented by yellow journalists in 1895. Reporters who'd never been inside the building wrote lurid descriptions of death rooms and torture chambers. Papers competed to outdo each other. The public wanted a monster, and the press built one. The building was strange. The layout was unusual. But Selzer's research suggests Holmes was primarily a con artist who killed when people got in the way of his schemes. Not a mastermind who engineered an elaborate killing machine. The confirmed death toll is 9, not 27, not 200, as some tabloids claimed. The monster was real. He murdered a man for insurance money and killed that man's children. That's horrifying enough. But the castle, the Gothic architecture of evil that's defined this story for 130 years, may have been largely myth. There's something uncomfortable in that revision. We prefer the version with the gas chambers and the secret chutes, the elaborate evil. Because if Holmes was just a grifter who killed 9 people, he's banal. He's ordinary, and ordinary is harder to process than extraordinary. H. Holmes became the first serial killer to be a media sensation, not because of what he actually did, but because of what newspapers said he did. A template America would follow again and again. Take a real crime, inflate it into myth, and sell the myth until it replaces the truth. Alice, Nellie, and Howard Pitt-Ezell were real children. Their deaths weren't a story, they were a thing that happened to a family. Everything else, the murder castle, the legend, the best-selling books, is just the room we built around it. If this one kept you up tonight, good. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Subscribe so the next one finds you too. Follow the Unlit Room wherever you listen. Tell a friend, but maybe don't tell them it's all real until after they've finished. Full story on the main channel. Follow if you're wide awake. That was the Unlit Room. See you in the dark.